I'm Tina Henry. I welcome you to my channel, and I hope you are well in the Lord. Even as I get into the topic of today, I would like us to share something on a topic that I've interacted with many people, and it's a topic of concern indeed, and in the current time in particular, because many people are struggling with this thing called bitterness. And bitterness is also mentioned in the Bible, and I want us to first of all hear what the Bible has to say regarding bitterness. Ephesians chapter 4 and verse 31 talks about get rid of all bitterness, rage, and anger, and brawling, and slander, along with every form of malice. I was looking at this verse and I was realizing I was looking at the things along which or beside which bitterness is put. They are not good things. If you look at slander, if you look at malice, if you look at brawling, if you look at anger, then there's bitterness right there. And in fact, it starts the list. It tells you that bitterness is one among, or just like anger, it is not right, it is not okay. The Bible or God does not encourage it. It is not the will of God that his people will be bitter. Looking at Romans chapter 3 and verse 14, it maybe before verse 14, it talks about how people whose hearts have turned away from God. And the end result is expressed in verse 14 and says, their mouths are full of cursing and they are filled with bitterness. It tells you then that bitterness is anti-God, and God's will is not for us to be bitter. So what is bitterness? The synonym for bitterness is resentment. And the dictionary meaning for bitterness then is anger, displeasure stemming from the belief that one has been wronged or betrayed by another person. Do you relate with that? That there's bitterness, there's anger, there's displeasure because you feel offended by someone, you feel betrayed by someone, you feel you have been wronged by someone. The fact is that we all have been wronged by someone at one point in time. We all have been offended. Sometimes we've hated people. Sorry to say, but we get to that point. But it shouldn't be like that, because when we do that, when people wrong us and we put it in our hearts and we want to build on that displeasure, that anger, we build on it, it develops into what we are calling bitterness. And as we shall see later perhaps in this video, in the next video, we shall see the dangers of bitterness. Also, it is regarded as indignation. That is anger that is aroused by the feeling of humiliation. You feel someone has humiliated you, someone has disrespected your dignity, they have degraded you. You know, this mostly happens especially with people we have trusted, people who are senior than us. They can humiliate us, and if we are not careful, we can get bitter about that. Well, when you look at bitterness from the biblical sense or from the Bible, there are many senses in which the word has been employed. But for this particular video, we are focusing on the emotional part of it. Bitterness, the emotional part of it. Maybe you can relate already with this term, because perhaps from the definition, it is clear to you that maybe perhaps you have bitterness right now, or you have been bitter before, or you have a friend who is bitter. So what causes bitterness? What causes bitterness? One is failure. Many times we are not kind enough to take failure. We don't take failure for a part of life, you know. And failure, if you're not careful, anytime we fail, we can get bitter. You may start a business, it fails. It could be a student, you do exams, you have read, you have done everything, but you fail. You know, you can fail in many areas. You can even fail in ministry. You can have ambitions, dreams, and you fail. And fail is part of life. And there's a Swahili saying that says asiyekubali kushindwa si mshindani. So if you have to live a life free of pain and bitterness, you have to learn to accept failure. Failure is one cause of bitterness, disappointment, or betrayal. You've been in a relationship, you have committed your all into that relationship, then suddenly the other partner quits or is not there or does not bring in the same commitment as you. They betray you. You get bitter. Some people have been actually heartbroken in relationships. 5 years ago, you're still holding on to that pain. It shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't be like it builds, bitterness. And when you have bitterness, we shall see the consequences of bitterness. Another thing that can cause bitterness is childlessness. There's no hiding about this. Anytime someone is trying to get a baby and they are not getting it, you can get bitter about it. For example, especially if there's pressure from family, pressure from friends, pressure from the church, pressure from the society to get a kid, and you're like, God, why? Sometimes you get bitter towards God. You get bitter towards the people that are questioning you about your condition. You get bitter, and bitterness builds up, that anger. You can even see someone's child and you're angry at them for no reason. You can even withdraw from friends because you feel, why have they succeeded and I'm here struggling in this area? I'm trying to get babies. My friend is getting 2 in a span of maybe 2 years, and perhaps they even complaining. You can get bitter, but it shouldn't also be like that. Another thing that can cause bitterness, maybe you can share also in the comments to help me know other things that can cause bitterness. Another one is misery. There are people who are struggling even to make ends meet. You're struggling to earn a living. You're struggling to provide for your family. I've actually gone through some posts on social media by people who are well up in this country, and you'll realize some people comment out of bitterness. Perhaps you're struggling with life, and then when that person is posting their life like it is doing well, the comment you put there is a clear indication that you are bitter. You're bitter because you're in lack. You're bitter because you are in insufficiency. And some of these things are things that you can solve so that you avoid bitterness. Another thing that can cause bitterness is bereavement. At one point or the other, we have lost loved ones. Perhaps if you have not, in the world of uncertainties, perhaps it will come, God forbid, but it's part of life. Bereavement, when you lose a loved one to death, and it is even worse when that death comes through a careless mistake of another person. You can never forgive that person. But there are things that take cause like sickness, like accidents. It has just happened, and they are normal. You value them. They had a place in your heart. You get bitter about it. Why did God do this? Why did that person do that? Why didn't that driver drive more carefully? You can blame anything for the situation, but the more you keep doing that, it builds up and forms bitterness, and your heart, you get angry at anybody and nobody, and it becomes a part of you. So bitterness is real, and people are going through it. I've personally gone through it, and I struggled to overcome. I was even telling God, I wish you can take out this heart, just give me another heart, because bitterness, a bitter person is a sick person. Research shows that actually bitterness can bring physical damage. It even hinders metabolism. You can imagine your food is not being well digested because you are bitter about something that passed, and it's something maybe you should outgrow. We should outgrow bitterness. We should outgrow anger. We should outgrow situations. We should learn not to let bitterness take a better part of our lives so that we can be healthy. Thank you and welcome again. God bless you.